Hello everybody, Evan here for another Moodle moment. We're going to revisit a topic that we looked at about a year ago. It's always good to come back and take a look at this. One of the things that new Moodle users do is that they always rely on the same standard default forum type. And we're going to look at 4 different types of forums that you can run, all with a little bit of different purposes, all different than the standard one, and they really help with some different instructional design that you're trying to do in your class. So we've got a couple of classes that we're looking at that I helped design. This one is on Pinterest in education. And the first assignment we're going to look at is actually, it's a debate. That's the function for it. But if I click on the debate, you'll notice here as a student that we go ahead and we pose the topic up here. As a designer, I don't want in this situation for them to go and to talk in separate threads. I want everything in one spot, one thread, and I also want them only to post one time instead of posting many times. So we've got our prompt question here, and you can see down here we've got individuals who go and they happen to take one of the 2 sides for the questions, and they can see what each other has posted, and they don't have to go and respond to that. Okay, how did I do that? Well, this is a forum type. Let's take a look at that. If I go under my edit settings here. When we create forums, we of course title them and we put the description in them. Some people don't realize you can put in an image or links just like you can any other place into your description. So that's a way of making your forums more engaging. But then you also often skip over this forum type question right here, this item. And the default is a standard forum for general use, but we have switched this one to be a single simple discussion. That keeps all the items in one spot. There's actually 5 different types of forums that they allow here. So we have the single simple discussion, which is what you see here. There's also one where you can have everybody just post one discussion in their own thread, so everything is separated in their own thread. Q&A forum, which we'll look at a little bit later. Blog-like format, which is more set up so that the initial poster has a full post, and then people can reply to that, and then the one that we typically use. So to make this one, how I did, I just changed it to a single simple discussion. Okay. Let's go back to my student view, and let's take a look at a different one. There was one that in that class called a Jigsaw. If you're not familiar with a Jigsaw instructional strategy, it's very simple. You give students a variety of different reading materials. They each read one or some of those, and then they come back together in groups, and then they share what they learned with each other. This way, A, you can cover more content in a smaller time, and B, it puts an individual in charge of teaching others, and that helps become more of a creative task, and it helps with their own learning as well. So that's what I've done here. We've got a topic on social bookmarking in education, and we've got 5 articles from different sites here for them to read, and they can go in, and in this one they actually pick 3 articles that they're going to comment on, and then they reply to the other 2. So look down below, you can see I've got the 5 articles spread out in different discussions, but I, as a participant, I have no button to add a new discussion here. Usually I do, and such. Now if I were to click on one of these, I can go in and I can reply like usual, and I can reply to other participants, and it would be threaded and such. But I can't create a new post, and that's really what I wanted as a designer. I wanted just the 5 main threads for each of those items, and then I wanted all the posts below. Now, that single simple discussion won't work because I've got 5 of them. So what did I do in this case? Well, there is some tricks you could do within Moodle. If I go into this one, instead of editing the settings, if I edit the settings, you're going to see it's still a standard forum for general use. Okay. There's another thing that we don't do a whole lot, and that is we can mess with the permissions. Okay. Now, very careful with this. If you're messing with permissions, I always encourage you to do it in a test area first with a test student, just to see what it's like instead of with live forums. But here's what I did. Click on permissions. And the way permissions work is they have all these different functions within Moodle, and then all of these different people who can go in and change those functions and such. Okay. Now, as a teacher, I might not be able to see all of this, or in some cases, any of it. So, if you need to go in and change this, and you're not able to, that's something that the support at AAPD Online can help out with. In this case, I want to go down to find where we start a new discussions, and there it is, and I misspelled it. Okay, so this is the ability for somebody to click on that button on the front and create a new thread, a new discussion. You notice that I don't have the student permission. See, there's student, and I don't have it here. I've taken that out. I've deleted it by clicking the X. Okay. That's what has allowed me to have a forum where they can't go and post themselves. Now they can go in, if I wanted to, I could have them not be able to reply and only post. I can do a lot of different things here and take away their ability. We did create a separate class if I wanted some students to post and others not to. We created one called Trusted Student. If you wanted some students to be trusted, you would have to go under the locally assigned roles, and then you would have to assign them as trusted students. Usually we don't mess with this at all. But that's another way of tinkering with the forum to get it to kind of do what you want to say, who can post where. All right, let's look at a couple more. I mentioned that we were going to look at the one where you had a Q&A type of forum. And this is one here. This is in our Ollie community. And within the community, we've got a blended learning course, and we've got a forum where we want people to look at a definition of different terms. Try defining it first, and then let's see what everybody else says. This is because some of these terms are very open-ended. They're kind of buzzwords, and they don't always have set meanings. So because we want this to be exploratory and for people to kind of stick their neck out a little bit and put down a definition before seeing what others are and being influenced, I've created the forum so that you can't see what everybody else says. Here, let's take a look. Note that you, again, don't have the list of discussions below. So I, as a teacher, had to create the first discussion, and I did. And then when I go in and I click Post Your Answers here, okay, I'm in as a student, and you can see that I can reply to this, and I would go and I would define those terms, and I cannot see the terms below until I reply. All right, so let's see how we do that. We go in as a teacher here, and I'm in on the forum, and I'm going to go ahead and edit the settings. And when I did that, you can see I've changed that one to be a Q&A forum. Okay. All right, now let's go back to our course. And one last one, and this one is something you might have already used. Here I've got a blended learning case study, and I've got some steps I want them to do in groups. But because I've laid it out and because they have specific roles within their group that they're working with and different steps that they're going to do within that, I want them to go ahead and create their own steps, which they've done below here. But I also don't want them all to be working together. I've got too many in this class to all be in one group. So what I've done instead is I've set this to be different groups. Now this particular student is in group 3, so you can see the group 3 is all the posts that they see. But if I go over as a teacher, I can see not only group 3, but I can also see group 1 as well. And there happens to be no group 2 in here. That's just kind of the irony with that. Okay, so this is very easy to set up. You do have to have groups set up first on your course before this will work. But then after you do, go in and edit your settings. And then you're going to come down here to Common Module Settings. And you're going to change the group mode from no groups to separate groups. Separate groups will mean that I, as a student, cannot see group 1 over here. Now, if I changed it to visible groups, the last one in the list, what would happen then is I, as a student, can see group 1's work, but I can't participate in it. I can only participate in group 3. There'll be some situations where you'd like to do that. So there's 4 quick techniques you can use to go and make your forums more interactive, to more designed around the instructional strategy that you'd like to use. Moodle is filled with little tricks and techniques like that you can go and tweak things to make it more specific to your instructional strategies. And that's where we can help at AAPD Online. Happy Moodling, everybody, and have a good weekend.